Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Indian Cafe. My name is Dustin Hubbard. I'm going to be your guest host tonight, and I am here with two amazing co-hosts, guests to speak about tonight's movie. I have Jonathan Moody with me. How are you tonight, Jonathan?
Good. How are you doing, Dustin?
I'm great. I'm doing real good. And we also have Cameron Scott here. How's it going, Cameron?
I'm doing better than anybody that was in this movie is doing.
Ouch. Well, that being said, tonight's movie is going to be Ghosthouse, which is a movie I saw many years ago. Back when I was a kid, I remember renting this on VHS from one of my local video stores, and I found it to be a fascinating movie with a lot of question marks.
But I had never seen it before.
Oh, even better. So it's definitely a fascinating movie to watch, I think, especially for a first time. So
yeah, and especially like I'm not really that into. Well, I'm not into, but I'm not really as familiar with Italian cinema. But I know about it, and I've watched some. Obviously Zombie and Suspiria and stuff, but not like this.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique film. So, but I guess we're gonna take a quick break and listen to some mood music and right back. And we're back.
Yeah, we are.
All right, guys. So, Ghosthouse.
Yeah, that was a movie.
It was. It's a. What did you think of the plot of Ghosthouse?
Can anyone sum up the plot? Like Cameron, tell us what the plot of this movie is.
It's part poltergeist, part Amityville horror, with a splash of Evil Dead and a whole lot of ham radio. I don't know if that's really a plot, but I guess it's kind of like a precursor to things like The Conjuring and movies like that. It has to do with a omnipotent spirit that come back because there's some, they got to come to some sort of resolution. But I'm using the plot loosely.
Ironically, the only the radio is ham, but it's not the only thing that's hammy in this movie.
Ooh.
So because there's a very strange tone to this movie, a very loose plot, I think, with we get our ham radio guy who gets a weird transmission that he records, and he tracks it with his girlfriend to a strange derelict house where randomly some young folk are just deciding to have a vacation and have their camper parked right next to the house.
Right by a cemetery too. Like,
why not? Ironically, the house by the cemetery, because this is the same location that was where House by the Cemetery was shot.
I did not know that, and so I was going to say, were they going to call this movie The House by the Cemetery, but that was already taken?
It should have been Ghosthouse by the Cemetery.
Oh, where were you when they were coming up with that title?
That's we need to make that
the term vacationing and relaxing very loosely. They could really just be called squatting.
Yeah, like what are they doing? Because they're not really doing anything vacation-y. They just park next to this house. Jim Dallin goes upstairs and plugs his radio in, and that's basically like all they're doing.
Mm-hmm. So were you familiar with any of the actors at all?
Personally, yes. I remember the coroner was in another film, I believe, that was from the same production team. A lot of these American-Italian co-production type films where the Italian crews come to America and shoot these films in America were made by a lot of the same people, and they employed a lot of the same people. So I remember the coroner being in Witchery as well.
Because I was getting very Troll 2 vibes from this movie.
That's why, yeah. A lot of the same type of people, and the lead actress, I forget her name, Laura Wendell, I believe. Yeah, Laura Wendell. She was also one of the leads in the same team's film Killing Birds, which is also known as Zombie 5 with Robert Vaughn.
Oh, Zombie 5.
Yeah.
I love how they just changed the titles. Like originally this was going to be Evil Dead 3 or something.
Yeah, Evil Dead 3. Basically, it was sold as La Casa 3, which in Italy, the Evil Dead films were sold as basically The House 1 and 2. And then...
So what did they do about the movie House? They did not call it The House?
That's what they did.
Yeah, who knows? But, they did this. This was technically known as La Casa 3, and then Witchery was made. It was also known as La Casa 4. In some areas, it was actually known as Witchcraft. And Beyond Darkness was known as La Casa 5.
Well, the main girl in this, I loved her, by the way. I thought she was adorable. She wasn't a great actress, but she was adorable.
Yeah, she was also in Argento's Tenebrae.
That's what I saw, and I was like,
Tenebrae.
I need to watch that, because I've never actually seen it yet.
She infamously, I'm not going to name the title because I don't think that I can pronounce it, but when she was a very young woman, too, she also acted in a film that was very controversial and banned in many countries.
It was nudity, right?
It was deemed child pornography, yeah. And
well, I mean, you can't have children.
Yeah. I don't remember how old she was, but she was very young, and it caused a big stir. So
that's disgusting. I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of hearing that kind of stuff.
I was going to say you're not a big fan of child pornography. Neither am I.
I hope none of us are.
So
I would hope nobody here is.
But I mean, this was really the only thing I was familiar with her from for years. So I didn't become as adept to the Argento filmography until a bit later in life, and took me a bit longer to discover the zombie film series. So.
She was also in a movie called Ring of Darkness, which is not the David Dakota Ring of Darkness.
Sadly, it is not the Dakota one.
So yeah, okay, Cameron, have you seen this before?
I've seen it a couple of times. It has been probably 25, 30 years since I've watched it. I watched it 2, maybe 3 times. It wasn't one of my favorite Italian horrors. Now, like, me, I love Italian horror. I love Argento. I love Fulci. I love Umberto Lenzi, who directed this. He did a lot of schlock and stuff. And this movie, it does have, some Italian horror movie royalty. I mean, our lead actress, of course, was in Tenebrae, one of the best Argento movies. And the guy who plays Valkos in this, Donald O'Brien, played Dr. Butcher, MD.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's horror movie royalty as far as I'm concerned. But it had been a long time since I'd seen this, and when you had told me that this is the one that you had picked us, and I was just like, okay, I like the cut of your jib. It's something I hadn't seen in a couple of decades.
Your jib. Are you in a Quentin Tarantino movie? You actually say that normally? Like, I like the cut of your jib, or is that just something you just?
I say it all the time.
Oh my god,
I've said it probably since I was a teenager.
So the director, Umberto Lenzi, who also went by, I forgot, what was his other nickname? What is like Humphrey something?
He was billed as like Humbert Humphreys or something like that.
Yeah.
Humphrey Humbert.
Oh my god.
A very American name.
Wait, was he trying to do like Humphrey Bogart, and he was just like Humphrey?
Well, with a lot of these movies, they would try and anglicize them and try and make it sound like they're very white production companies to try and make viewers more welcomed to watch them and not trick them into thinking they're watching a foreign film that's probably mostly dubbed. There's a lot of these kinds of films too, in some cases, were shot and all the dialogue was, in some cases, I don't know if this movie was one of them, but in some cases movies like this would be shot and they really wouldn't even record audio because they would sell it to a bunch of different territories and redub it.
So you did a movie called Cannibal Ferox. Is that like related to Cannibal Holocaust?
No, but it's one of those movies that kind of, I believe, came as, you know, sort of the fallout from that when, you know, everyone started going crazy for cannibal films. So,
and he directed my one of my favorites. Fucking sorry, I don't drop that bomb left and right. Sorry, but Nightmare City, you know, was one of my favorites.
Nightmare City is an amazing movie.
I've never seen that. God damn it! There's so many movies out there I need to watch.
That movie's probably the earliest instance, correct me if I'm wrong, Cameron, of a zombie film where the zombies actually like brandish weapons.
Yeah, they brandish weapons and they man vehicles and big airplanes and shit. I mean, they kind of do a little bit of everything. It's one of the first instances, I think, of running zombies, long before 28 Days Later.
Definitely.
Well, I don't know. We watched Return of the Living Dead. So when was that made? The Nightmare City.
1980, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
predated it by at least 4 years.
4 years. So 4 years was Return of the Living Dead, and those were the first time that people said wanted brains. You know. So each time in the 80s, they were trying to fix the zombie stuff so it's different, because they did have running zombies in Return of the Living Dead, because I remember seeing them run after the cops and stuff or whatever. You know,
Some
bum
of the best
rush
zombies ever committed to celluloid, man.
Yeah, I want to say a good zombie movie these days. There really isn't any.
No.
I think it's hard, you know? Like, it's hard to do something now because it's sort of already been done, you know?
The last real original one I saw was called Fargo. It's a Netflix movie that came out, but it's been about 2 or 3 years.
What was it called?
Fargo? Yeah, it has Martin Freeman in it. It's I don't want to ruin anything for you, but it's got a nice little twist to the story. You know, it's just about I don't want to ruin it for you. You just got to go into it just not knowing anything.
Okay.
Sadly, you know, I think the last zombie movie that I saw that I would say was really amazing was, or at least was definitely original. I do love 28 Weeks Later. I think that's a far superior film to Days Later, but there was an indie movie called Pontypool.
I've heard of that.
Pontypool. Movie, right?
Canadian film, yep. It is a low-key masterpiece about a kind of a shock jockey radio DJ who's, you know, holed up in his radio station broadcasting during a zombie outbreak, and it's all told from inside the radio station. The zombies are in the story, but you almost see nothing, but they're not the kind of infection you think it is either. I can't really say more than that without giving it away.
And they're not ham radios.
Exactly.
Right. Like, that was the thing about this. I don't know much about ham radios. Honestly.
I don't even, to be honest, I still don't even know what a ham radio is. So
it seems, so what was his job?
Like,
you know?
Is like ham radio just like creating your own like rogue radio broadcast?
Yeah.
Without like having a station, you just kind of like do whatever you want.
Kind of thing. They were all communicating with each other.
I mean, they're talking about important topics like who's more famous in Boston right now, Kim Basinger or Kelly LeBrock?
Yeah. I think that's the only time I've ever heard Kelly LeBrock actually named in a movie. You know.
Yeah, first time you'll ever, and last time you'll ever hear her name dropped in the film.
Yeah. Well, unless I do it in one of my movies.
That was big into ham radios when I was, we went to high school together, and he used to use it just to talk to people in like other countries and like people in Hawaii and Alaska. And I'm like, so it's like a phone, but the radio. And he's like, no. He's like, it's over radio waves. I'm like, so it's like a cell phone, but it's a radio. It's the same thing. It's just use it to talk to people and kind of do a pump up the volume, I guess, kind of like you said, like Happy Harry Hard on radio disc jockey kind of shit. But I don't know. The worst thing that they could come up with is who is more popular, Kim Basinger or Kelly LeBrock. I mean, I guess it's pretty harmless.
Who would you guys say is more famous?
Kim. There's no question. Kim,
Kelly LeBrock?
All day long, Kim.
Well, I mean, nowadays, but in the 80s, like 80, what was 88? Still Kim?
Still Kim.
It's weird because I almost felt like rewatching it too and hearing that line, because that line always stuck with me, was like, it feels like it was really on the cusp of Kim being a thing. I could be misremembering, and Kelly LeBrock definitely being on her downturn to a degree. I don't know. I guess around the same time. No. So.
Did she really ever go up?
No.
Nah. She did that.
I feel bad because wasn't she
Weird Science, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Weird Science is the only thing I remember her from.
I remember her doing a female Western for Jim Wynorski in the early 90s called Hard Bounty, and I think that's the last major like lead I remember her having.
That's when your life is going down, when Jim Wynorski is asking you to be in the movie. You're like, oh shit, is it come to this?
Female gunslinger.
I love Jim,
the
but like
the difference between the two is Kelly LeBrock ended up doing Jim Wynorski movies, and Kim Basinger did L.A. Confidential and won an Oscar. That's the difference.
Exactly. and Kelly was married to, unfortunately, Steven Seagal.
We try not to hold that against her.
And Kim was married to Alec Baldwin. I don't know. I think they both may be lost in that.
Nowadays, Kim Basinger is doing, stuff like 50 Shades Freed, and things like that. I think we saw her in something that looked really terrible. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else.
These are the important topics that people need to discuss more. So,
I agree, man.
What is Basinger and Kelly LeBrock doing this week?
I'm glad they understood. And with the ham radio thing too, it's funny because I think one thing that when I've heard people talk about this movie, the one thing that nobody ever really seems to question or want to address is, so he the lead dude whose character name I don't remember, Paul catches a futuristic transmission via the ham radio and hears an event that hasn't happened yet. And he traces the signal of something that didn't happen yet to the ghost house.
So, was the ghost house wanting him to come?
I don't know. Maybe.
I kind of figured that's what was going on, because I can't figure out why, even though he got that weird transmission with the guy, talking on it and the screaming, why he would go to investigate, triangulate his position and figure out where it was coming from. Why did it matter? Unless Henriette was leading him there.
But how would she know that he would be that much of a go-getter and give two shits to hunt it down,
Because he asked the important questions, Kim versus Kelly. I don't know. I'm grabbing here. I'm grabbing.
You're trying to figure it out and stuff. I don't know.
I was slightly less confusing than Halloween Ends.
Yeah, actually, well, I prefer this over Halloween Ends any day.
I love this movie. It's weird and stupid. It doesn't really make any sense, but like it's never really boring. The acting is hilarious. It's got some pretty decent kills. I think the clown doll was actually really terrifying looking. I don't like that at all. The little girl's weird and creepy. It's got a unique tone, but I think it's not a great it's not a classic, but I think it's got a lot of stuff going for it that make it interesting to watch.
But the one thing that I got to mention is it commits what I call a bozo no-no in the beginning. You get the dead cat, which the creepy kid is just creepy as shit. Like, oh, how dare you do this? It's your birthday. And this is like, would have been okay if she had killed the cat not on her birthday.
How would you do this to one of God's creatures? And then he locks her in the basement or something.
Well, this is pretty much like if Italy got together with a co-American production and decided to make an Amityville horror ripoff.
Yeah.
It's kind of that mode. As much as I love the Italian cinema stuff,
yeah,
a lot of it is very rip-offy of the other movies,
Oh yeah, they definitely always made it a point to try and emulate the popular stuff to try and bleed it for whatever profit they could.
Yeah, milk it dry, yeah.
And it's weird because even though, you can say people obviously Argento and, Bava and people like that are the Italian gods, but I always, as a viewer, always leaned more towards these weird American-Italian co-production type films and shit Lenzi made, because they always were just very strangely structured, fever dreamish type bullshit.
Fever dream is a good way to put it. A lot of these movies are just extended fever dreams.
Yeah, and along the lines of stuff like, Bruno Mattei and Claudio Fragasso, and just more people like that, sort of I don't know,
Claudio.
The low-tier Italian games.
Claudio made one of my favorite bad movies. I shouldn't love this movie as much as I do, but I love it. I'm going to mention it here because it needs to be mentioned. Monster Dog.
Oh yeah,
an insane amount of love for Monster Dog, for making making the only movie that Alice Cooper ever headlined.
Yeah, and I feel like wasn't it Bruno Mattei and Claudio Fragasso in some levels both had made Night Killer. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes. Oh, I've seen Night Killer. I own it.
Yeah, I will never forget the first time that I watched that after it had come out on Blu-ray, and I watched it with Clint Kelly, and I was so confused as to what was going on, and it just kept blowing my mind in the weirdest ways. So, and it's funny because that movie too, the lead actor Peter Hooton, he lives in my city.
Oh right, he's still alive.
He is, yeah. He lives in Sarasota somewhere. He supposedly lives within a 10-mile radius of my house. So I tried to contact him, but he never gets back to me.
Have you ever seen one by Lenzi called The Cynic, the Rat, and the Fist?
No, but I like that title.
Oh, it's again, that's one I want to try to tell you about, but I don't know how to tell you about it without ruining it.
Yeah,
it's more of a crime thriller. It's one of those hardened Italian crime thrillers.
Yeah,
a lot of cocaine, a lot of drunkenness going on, a lot of smoking cigarettes and and scotch. Yeah.
Well, a lot of these kinds of movies too, especially from the Italians, seem to always kind of skirt that kind of storyline or tone of being procedurals as well, or having a a police procedural kind of thing. This movie has a small dash of that too, with the cop guy. But they don't really.
What an inept cop! What a fucking inept cop! It's for real.
Yeah,
he at all the wrong times.
Yeah, and he doesn't really accomplish much of jack shit either. So.
Yeah, he's more ineffectual than the cops that show up in pieces.
Yeah, and he's totally okay with just being like, "Oh yeah, we found the killer hanged himself in the cemetery. We found him 2 hours ago." And they're like, "Wait, Valkos didn't kill all these people." And he's like, "What am I going to tell him? Ghosts did it?"
Yeah, he's just going to shut down the investigation. And I think it's what Paul says to what's her name, Martha.
Yeah,
it's like, you can't ever tell anybody about this, or I think no, what's her name? Says it to Susan.
To Susan, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I got the names mixed up. It's like, you can't ever tell anybody about this because they're going to think you're crazy. Yeah, I guess so. And it's like, no, tell people, write a book, make some money, do something.
Yeah, and it's funny because they don't say goodbye or anything. She just like starts the engine and drives off and is just like gone. And I'm like, I feel like if there were a character that should have just like died, like they should have just killed her too, because her whole posse was dead. So they should have just offed her too and added one more to the body count tally, in my opinion.
So am I right that they left the RV behind?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, she totally just like ditches everything. She just gets on the motorcycle and
Well, it was broken, wasn't it?
It was broken down, but the brother in the jean jacket went to go get the part to fix it.
I love how you say the brother in the jean jacket, because we really don't know their names in the movie.
Yeah, sadly probably the only character I ever remember. I remember Henrietta and I remember Tina. Those are the only two character names I ever remember in this movie.
I think it's because they say Tina 20,000 times.
And Jim Dallin. I'm Jim Dallin.
Hey, when he first shows up, he's like pointing a knife at him or whatever it is, or a screwdriver at him. Like after a while, after they're introduced, they even play the tape. It's like, put the knife down, quit pointing that shit at you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just love how he did. He said, "Yeah, hi, I'm Jim Dallin," or whatever. Like he throws it in a normal conversation, but it doesn't sound normal at all. Like it sounds.
There's this amazing movie. I believe it was. It's a Wine-Coup movie that he did back in the day called Lost Faith. Have you ever seen that?
I own it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere he's like, "Hey, man, I'm Steve Nakota." Everywhere, like, everyone he comes in contact, "Hey, I'm Steve Nakota." Like, he just keeps saying it, like he keeps introducing himself.
I mean, and technically, I don't know if you would do that necessarily, but, it is good so that the audience knows his name,
Yeah. But it's weird. I'm not like, "Hey, I'm Dustin Hubbard. Nice to meet you."
I'm going to do that at the convention this weekend. I'm going to walk up to everybody and go, "Hi, I'm Jonathan Moody. Hi, I'm Jonathan Moody. Hi, I'm Jonathan Moody." They're going to be like, "Who? I don't care."
Yeah, you're Jonathan Moody, but who the fuck are you? That's what they'd be thinking. Like,
who the fuck do you think you are, coming up to me and just shaking my hand and saying, "Hi, I'm Jonathan Moody"?
Yeah.
Would you be shaking their hand with a skeleton hand like that fucking Pepe?
Pepe. What a great character. Pepe, he lifted $5 off Martha with like a generic like gag prop.
Halloween City Hom.
Yeah. And it's fascinating through the way people describe things in this, because when Tina's trying to tell Susan and this Susan's boyfriend, like, there was a guy and he had a skeleton hand, and they're like, "Yeah, sure, you always lie." And it's like, why isn't she saying that it was like a prop, like gag thing that he was using? He himself did not have a hand that was a skeleton. Like,
well, I think it's because
descriptions of not being very thorough. Like when the guy says, "Oh yeah, he kept a doll that was supposed to be buried with a dead child," I'd be like, "He kept a creepy clown doll." Like, it feels like they're not being forthright with information when they're explaining things in this movie.
No.
Not at all.
Everything's very vague.
But I did like him. But I thought, all right, this is so random. They pick the guy up, they drop him off, and the first thing he says is like, "Do you guys believe in ghosts?" And I'm
what I love is when he gets to the house and he bumps into Tina, and she's like freaking out, and he's like, here, you want a bite? And he pulls out his Mr. Goodbar and he tries to like make her take a bite. And she's like, and he's like, come on, man, it's good for you.
Yeah, it's already got a bite taken out of it.
Yeah, it's like already half.
I don't want your spitbacks.
Yeah, it's got his nasty germs all over it.
It's got his nasty germs all over it. On top of that, I would have literally thought it could be poison.
And he was the victim of one of the most idiotic, like, I don't know if you'd call it a trope, but like situations in a horror movie where I find it hilarious and irritating at the same time when you open a door and there's just the dead person standing on the other side of the door waiting to fall in, because you don't stand dead.
Well,
and Pepe just falls through dead.
We never saw him, right? Like, die. We never got to see that.
Yeah, his murder was off screen.
Yeah, which kind of sucks because, like, honestly, all the murders were the best thing about this movie.
Yeah, and the kills are good.
The thing about this movie was the opening 10 minutes and the last like 10 minutes, like, were just filled with so much fucking craziness. Like, I gotta ask, like, I don't know what the purpose of this was, but maybe one of you guys knows. What was up with maggot-faced Skeletor? You know, that was in this movie.
It's randomly like death is at the house. It's like the fucking Grim Reaper or something.
I thought that too, but also
part of the movie.
I thought it was also the dude that died, you know, with the acid. You know, I thought that's what it was. It was the acid guy's face.
The guy that fell through the floor?
Yeah.
No, because he I
think it was because, like, remember she tried to attack him, like she
ended up stabbing him with the shears,
right? So I think I thought it happened is he's coming after her for that.
I don't know. He's dressed
covered in 30 gallons of marshmallow fluff.
Yeah, he like fell through the floor into like a giant vat of jizz, and then like the Grim Reaper shows up. He's dressed like the Grim Reaper to me. Like, I don't know. I never took that as being like the dead jean jacket dude. I always just figured like this is another weird thing, like the ghost dog that just shows up. And,
why didn't they make it a ghost cat? Because the cat died there.
Well, like they throw it wasn't like a candlestick or something at the Doberman, and it kind of like shrinks and like disappears into the dog. It never even hits the.
Yeah, but I was thinking like they should have done a ghost cat because the cat died in the beginning of the movie. That girl killed the cat, which I think was like probably one of my that's one of my least favorite things in the world is to see animals dead, you know, in movies or whatever. So when I saw it, I was just
favorite part of this movie was the dead cat at the beginning. That's a bozo no-no right there.
Yeah, to me that's a no-no. So I was just like, I don't like that in the beginning of a movie. You know, like it already starts to make me go, okay, then that means like they can kill off the, you know. What? For me,
it was easier to take at the beginning of the movie because to me, like I knew like once that was over, that was the worst part of the movie. Everything else was smooth as cream cheese. After that, it was just not a problem. Like, I can get past this, I'll get past anything. And I can get past Maggoty Skeletor. I know it probably is the Grim Reaper now that you mention it, Dustin, because it just makes sense. But I'm just still going to call him Maggoty Skeletor.
It just makes sense to me in the scope of just like the apeshit and nonsense that happens in this house. Like,
all of it was crazy. Dead cats, Maggoty Skeletor, just everything. There was. It was
Devil Dog.
Yeah, there was just so much that happened, and most of it would happen when the girl would be around. What was it with that song or whatever?
I love how they say it's a song, but it doesn't sound like a song to me. It sounds like weird gibberish to me with like a slight melody to it.
It doesn't even have a melody to it because all it's saying is like rah, 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 rah.
Well, it's got the like
something that was being played backwards,
and then it's it sounds like someone talking underwater, basically.
I thought it was that sooner or later because I was so unfamiliar with this movie. It had been a couple of decades since I'd seen it. I thought it was going to come out in the wash that they were going to play the message backwards, and then it was going to make it into something because that's what it sounded like. sound like people talking with notes playing backwards. That's why it didn't sound like music.
They'll do that.
Really went anywhere.
They'll do that in Return to Ghosthouse.
Dude,
which I'm coincidentally writing right now.
Make it, guys. Make Return to Ghosthouse. I'd watch
well,
that.
You guys probably don't remember, but a few years back there was the threat of a remake of this movie. Do you remember that?
No.
The threat of
Do
it?
tell.
The threat of a remake.
Okay.
The
So who was going to make it?
The threat of a remake. Who loves to make remakes?
Oh no!
Yes.
No.
Yes, that's exactly who you think.
Oh God!
They raised a lot of money to do so too, but then it never happened. And I will further take the Grim Reaper step to the next level, because in that version they had actually cast Paul T. Taylor, Hellraiser Judgment Pinhead, as Death.
As Death?
Yep.
So they would have they would have had the same character from the ending in the movie?
Probably a much larger part. No,
because then that would he have his face covered?
Oh.
Because I would have you can't give a role like that to Paul, like.
No, I mean, look at where he went anyway. He just was in a Friday fan film. So I mean,
hey, look, those are getting really big right now. Just saying.
They are, but
I hold it against him more for being in the Hellraiser Judgment. To be quite honest, it's the worst Hellraiser movie there is.
What?
It ain't his fault.
Yeah. Okay. Hellworld is probably the worst.
Hellworld is a bothersome film. I think that Judgment is an okay movie. I think that Paul Taylor is a decent Pinhead. He just has nothing to do in the movie. It's like the movie where it's Hellraiser in a house, and he's basically Pinhead's just sitting in his chair for the whole movie, while other
King
people.
Pinhead.
Kind of, yeah. And, the Cenobites are operating they're running the operation downstairs, and he's just kind of chilling in the bedroom upstairs. But I think he does okay in it. He's better than Great Value Pinhead from Revelations.
Revelations?
I already forgot about that one. I take it back. Revelations probably is the worst one.
Wasn't that a
But I'll say
one of those three that I mentioned are probably the worst ones.
But I think Revelations is better than people give it credit for, because plotline wise, it's the most in theme with Barker's concepts. They just didn't have Doug Bradley, and they had a tenth of the budget. And the first 10 or 15 minutes are found footage, so it gets a lot of shit. But I think it's actually a pretty solid movie. It's just when you get to those Pinhead parts, and it's this pudgy dude who looks like he's doing a really bad cosplay, it just falls apart.
I want to go back.
It's a Great Value brand.
Exactly.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's okay. It's the Great Value brand. The Walmart.
Walmart brand, Dollar General brand.
So I want to go back to the Ghosthouse remake. So they were going to remake this,
yes,
and they got the money to do it.
And
they raised a lot of money.
I believe they raised a fair share of money, and what the money was for was to actually acquire the rights to actually to get the rights to do the remake. And
I wonder how much was it to get the rights?
It was a few thousand.
Just a few thousand, really?
I'm not sure of an exact number, but it was a handful of thousands at least. Yeah. And I remember there being kind of a panic to I have this much time to get this much, and kind of pandering to get donations, and they got it. But then the movie itself never materialized. I think it's still on IMDb if you looked it up. Possibly. It was on there, though, but I don't know if it's still there. It could
I'm
be.
going to look it up while we're talking and see.
It could just be one of those projects that maybe fell through and never actually came to fruition, because their the same filmmaker has had other things along those lines that never actually materialized.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like it's on IMDb anymore, so.
Yeah,
But
I'm not
that's-
finding it either.
Might be
Would it be under the same title?
which I don't. It should be the best. Let's see. Now I'm going to do my detective work here as well, just for.
This is the fascinating stuff that happens on Indie Film Cafe.
Hey, there's always
We're doing the hard work so that you folks at home don't have to.
exactly.
Yeah, you guys can do it at home too if you want.
Exactly. Let's see here.
Yeah, I don't see it anywhere.
Well, I see on Indiegogo. I see the Indiegogo.
Yeah.
Yep, it's exactly what I thought it was.
Yep.
Oh God, they were trying to raise
totally.
$50,000 for it. Oh, they're raising initial funds to pay cast crew up front, as well as our special effects. And, God damn. Oh well, I'm glad.
Yeah, so it's no longer on IMDb, so it probably isn't a thing anymore. So, which is good. This movie, I don't think you could justify with a remake. I think it's such a weirdly unique, just specific thing that I think trying to recreate some of the weird fever dreamishness nonsense of this movie would only kind of just ruin the effect, I think.
Well, I wonder who owns the rights now.
That I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder who, like, because, yep. All right, well. Oh, well, I'm just glad it's not happening right now with said person, but who knows? He may someday get the money to do it, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody
can't have
should
nice
remake
things.
it. Somebody should
say,
remake
as
it.
long as people like that are remaking movies like this, we're not allowed to have nice.
Yeah. And I really personally, I don't think a movie like this would benefit from a remake. I think it's a very uniquely specific and eccentric film that just exists in its own little time capsule of, you know, like 1987, 88-ish. I don't think adapting it to a modern day and trying to recreate some of the bizarre mindfuckery of what's going on, and it would really work. And if it did work, it would have to be, I don't want to throw people under the bus, but it would have to be done by a very skilled filmmaker.
Well, I mean, somebody who, you know, because what I really liked about this film, honestly, this goes back to, I don't like the movie Witch House, you know, which the first one, you know, the second and third I'm a big fan of, but the first one was boring to me. I'm not a fan of like people just hanging out in the house. Like, you know, like if this movie were all a Ghosthouse, everybody's just in the house, I would be bored as shit. Because and even in that movie, not everything happens in the house. Which is a little confusing because like how can it go to the, you know, other areas? You know what I mean? Like I mean, and she's not even, her body's not even in the house. She's in the like mausoleum, you know, or whatever. So like she died there, I guess, though. She died in the house. So that makes sense. But hunting like the RV at one point made no sense to me because I'm like, wait, why? How can her powers go all the way? Does that mean she could literally go anywhere and attack anybody at any time?
She just wasn't a fan of Lipton tea.
Well, she was on, was she on the
that
TV?
Lipton tea in the background, would you?
It's hard to not see it. Like
when it's moving back and forth like that in the background when the RV is getting thrown around. I thought, like, did Lipton tea like pay for paid advertisement in this?
Heavy product placement, like
maybe. But I don't know, like the RV, all that stuff. So I like, how did it? Because did the ghost make the dude kill himself? Because we never see that. You just see that guy. By the way, that guy was amazing. I loved him. That the character of like the groundskeeper. Like I wanted to call him Groundskeeper Willie the whole time, but you know, like he was going around. I wanted to walk up and say, "You've got the shinning."
You know, one funny thing to point out too is in this movie we have the main cop guy investigating the situation, and in the credits they credit his character as Lieutenant.
What? For real?
They split the word lieutenant into two separate words. Like,
oh, I thought it was like Lou, like Lou, and then tenant.
No, it's like the first four letters of lieutenant as its own first name, and then tenant is like the last name.
That's
Lieutenant.
Funny. Oh, that's so lazy.
Well, that's also really weird. You know,
it's so lazy, but so cool at the same time.
Well,
Italian production.
I was gonna say, I guess Italians who don't really know English that well, so
they're like lieutenant. Okay, lieutenant.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like, you watch something like Troll 2. It's pretty common knowledge nowadays, but it's like, Claudio Fragasso was very specific about like, these are the way you need to say the lines, and you have to say it specifically, these sentences, and it's like, Americans don't talk like this, and he's like, we know how you talk. And it's like, so there's stupid stuff that makes no sense because they don't have a grasp of the English language correctly, and then they misspell shit. And
well, what harkened back to Troll 2 to me was the scene where the main thing where he was like that one brother was whatever his name was, he actually said his name and everything, but he's actually saying the words that end up going on the ham radio. And the way he said it and the way he did it made me think of the guy that was like, they're eating somebody. They're gonna eat me.
They're gonna eat me.
No.
my God.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted him to say that. I wanted him to say, "Oh my God," you know.
You know, that guy went on to do like a cameo in like a Halloween Town film.
Why not? You know. Wait, does that make him a Disney princess now?
I hope.
If there's any justice in this world,
just any justice.
Hey, hey, Disney bought Fox, so I mean,
know. So Linnea Quigley is a Disney. I'm going to talk to her about that when I see her this weekend.
The Alien Queen is a Disney princess now, and so is Dr. Frankenfurter.
But Trash is a Disney princess because that was actually Fox that did Return of the Living Dead. So there you go. There's a lot of Fox properties have Disney princesses now.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. This movie, honestly, I didn't hate it. You know, like or anything. Like I didn't think, oh my God, this was so terrible. Like. I think even if I were just watching this on my own, I would have kept going because I just want to know what the fuck is going to happen. You know, like it's one of.
And I have to point out, like, what does happen? Because I love the fact that, like, whatever's resolved, Henrietta's defeated. Old girl on the motorcycle just bolts and ditches the RV, and Martha and her ham radio dude go back to Boston, and then it's just like Martha's like happily like shopping in like the downtown district, and then she's like, hey boyfriend, and then he like just goes to cross the street and then just gets hit by a bus.
Well, no, but she also sees the doll. Do you remember that? Yeah, she saw the doll.
Yeah, but he just gets hit by a bus, though.
Well, I think the doll made it happen. You know, made that happen. That was the point.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think that was what I got from it. You know,
randomly like idiotic like final moment where it's like, haha, you lived. Oh, psych, that one's dead because he just got hit by a bus because he's a moron and wasn't paying attention when he crossed the street.
Well, one of my
and he stood there screaming, waiting for it to hit him like
that
is Farrell with the Zamboni and out of the fucking way.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves is that And it also happens with the guy at the funeral home who's like getting attacked by the groundskeeper Willie. He just stands there and just lets
begs
him.
and doesn't like do anything.
He has a fucking hammer. Run.
Well, he even lets him put him in the coffin, and he's like, no, and he's like not trying to like climb out.
Yeah,
like
he's not trying to climb out. He's not. I mean, I'm like, is he? A lot of people go, well, he's frozen in fear. I'm like, he's not frozen in fucking fear. Like no,
he's just stupid.
I know, it's just a stupid. But it's because script says this has to happen. He has to get hit by hammer.
And we know how overly specific these Italian filmmakers are about making sure you do what's on the page. So.
And you're supposed to stand there while the caretaker's going to grab you in the cemetery there, Martha. Scream 3 times and throw your hands up before you run away from it.
Here's the thing. As a filmmaker, so I've had scenes where in the script it's says this, right? Then we get to the location, right? And we realize this person can run this way. What do? We have that happen.
Yeah, you have to
rework it, make it happen that way, because otherwise it's going to look like that. And I hate that.
What I've always heard is that, there's 3 different versions of a movie. You have the written version, then you show up on set and film it, and that is usually never what's on the page. So you have the film version, and then you have the edited version, which is usually something completely different again. So
yeah, so all 3 versions, and I agree. I just think this movie is it's
a constant metamorphosis. So
yep,
I would love to see the script of this movie. So
I would love to read a script.
I will say I don't have it handy, but I do actually own the soundtrack to this film. I have a CD of La Casa 3. Original soundtrack, because I do love some of the music themes in this movie.
So
does it have the weird tune, the weird lullaby on there?
No. But it's got that great, like that main jam, the
hey, don't be doing that. I don't want to get copyright strike.
They're probably lost that by now.
So yeah, I don't know. All in all, I think this was actually a fun movie. It's bad. Don't get me wrong. It's bad. It's got really terrible dialogue, really terrible acting, scenes that make no sense whatsoever. Everything we pretty much said, and that's just it's just. But all in all, this is not the worst thing we've ever seen. This is definitely not up there. So, with that being said, is there anything we didn't touch on?
I love the shot of when Tina gets cut in half. That's my favorite death in the movie, is when she randomly falls, and then there just happens to be this giant like guillotine blade hanging from the ceiling that just like falls on her. And then you get those hilarious wide shots where it's clearly 2 different people laying there to like make it look like her body got split.
And that hobby horse is like blocking the shot in between the 2 of them.
Exactly.
That's actually my favorite sequence of the film too.
Now, I actually was kind of disappointed that they didn't do one thing. What I would do if I were to sort of make a movie like this, which I wouldn't remake this, but I would make if I were to make a movie like this, or whatever. What I would do is take the idea of the ghost in the house killing everybody, and then they come back as ghosts and start killing people. So it's like a whole thing. If you die, you come back as the ghost, and you're evil. Helping kill.
Sounds
that more fun.
Sounds like Witch House.
Is that like Witch House?
Well, people die and then they kind of come back as like demons.
Demons,
Kind of like Witch House is kind of like a Night of the Demons homage. So
Night of the Demons, yeah, but it's not. I wouldn't say demons. I would say ghosts.
Yeah.
Whatever. But you might be right. I'm a little close. Maybe if they did a Witch House remake, I'd be down with that.
No Witch House remake. We need Witch House 4.
Okay, well, Witch House 4.
Definitely.
Witch House 4.
I mean, if Full Moon can resurrect all those franchises they've been resurrecting, there's life still in the Witch House.
I have my own thoughts on that whole situation, but
of course you do.
I'm gonna keep them to myself. I'm gonna keep them private. They're not ready for air. But part 4 needs to happen. Let's put it that way.
I love 3. Cameron, you were on part 3 with me and John Ward, I believe.
Yeah.
When we did that, not last year, but this year before, I think.
It's been about a year and a half, yeah.
I love all 3 Witch House movies. I will happily admit that Witch House 1 is the weaker of them, but 3 is damn good. It is an inferior film to part 2, but 3 is a damn fun movie. I love the fact that it's so basic. It's like the log line is literally like 3 hot chicks in a beach house being terrorized by a witch, and the movie literally has 5 people in it and 1 location, 2 locations tops. That's it.
And it works though,
It's like so simple. Like the 3 chicks, a boyfriend, and the witch. That is it. Like,
I mean, it's cheap, it's easy, it's low, but it's David Dakota. Like that's just simple.
Well, that one was J.R. Bookwalter.
Which one are you talking about?
3.
Part 3, right?
Yeah. I thought there was more than 4 characters though.
Not in Witch House 3. There's literally Debbie Rochon, Tina Kraus, Tanya Dempsey, Brink as Lilith, and the boyfriend.
The boyfriend, yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
There's literally
5.
There's only 5 people in that movie, and there are moments in it too where, like, I think the parking garage and in the office scene when like Tina's being terrorized by Brink, those were all shot at the Full Moon offices.
We just had Tina on our show for Indie Film Cafe, and she actually told us that the house that they shot that at, she believes belonged to somebody from Red Hot Chili Peppers. So she doesn't know who, but somebody from it. So, hey, that's awesome. Good for JR finding somebody to rent out the house like that. Guess that's LA for you, so I guess we're probably at that time, unless is there anything else? Like, real quick, Cameron, what's your favorite death?
Favorite death is Tina's death, the guillotine death, because it's that ridiculous shot that Dustin's already described, where 2 bodies are split up behind the hobby horse. It's just it's so out of left field. The last thing you expect in this movie is a guillotine to drop from the ceiling.
Yep.
Exactly. Like you saw the razor, happen and stuff, but like this was like
character, though. My favorite character who doesn't get to kill anybody, though, is Maggie Skeletor.
He almost was there. He was about to, but then they burned the body.
He was that close.
Which I'm wondering, like, was this the first time they've ever like burned a body in order to get rid of a ghost? Because like that's a staple of Supernatural, TV show Supernatural. Which, by the way, they have one of the best lines in this movie. I put it on my Facebook because I thought it was hilarious. And it was like, he was like, maybe there's something supernatural happening here. And then Paul, our main guy, goes, I don't know. All I know is computers.
He didn't know computers too well.
So are you saying Supernatural ripped off Ghosthouse?
Maybe.
There's I don't know about destroying the body to get rid of a ghost, but at the end of Elm Street 3, the doctor guy puts the holy water on Freddy's bones.
Okay.
And like destroy him, and it works.
So like in, was it in Supernatural, they put the fire onto like the ghost bones, or whatever, wherever the ghost is buried, and stuff, and just incinerate it, and then the ghosts just go.
Yeah. Oh, to take it back to Witch House, in Witch House 2 Blood Coven, the Angus Westmore and Norman Soderquist characters, they actually go get acid to go back to the bodies, the remains of Lilith and her acolytes, and actually try and burn the bones with the acid to actually destroy them too.
So anything
it does. Witch House is life. That's why.
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, that's a trilogy. I'm surprised you didn't pick one of, pick Witch House 2. You picked Ghosthouse of all things.
I picked there's certain titles that you got to watch out because I'll have way too much to say. So Cameron learned that last night when we were on his thing because I had a lot to say about last night's on his. So
which one did you guys do? You guys can talk about now because it's like this is gonna be February of next year that this is out. So
this will drop in a couple of weeks, but we were talking about Popcorn.
Which one?
Popcorn,
classic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think we went on for about 2.5 hours talking about Popcorn.
Yeah, it was a long chat. I know I had a lot to say about that movie, so
and rightly so because that movie is the out and out classic. There's no other way to describe that movie. The movie is really.
We just did Cutting Class for 80s horror films, so I could have picked Popcorn, but I picked Cutting Class because not many people talk about it.
Cutting Class is one that's always had a very special place in my heart too, as far as like slasher movies go.
Did you just have a crush on freaking Brad Pitt when you were watching it?
Not really.
Really?
Nah.
I will admit to having a crush on Jill Schoen. I did. No qualms about admitting that.
Me too.
But Roddy McDowell had a crush on Jill Schoen too.
It's true.
You can believe he had a crush on her, but I remember when that movie came out on DVD or on Blu-ray, I about had a heart attack when that announcement actually came out, and I actually bought and have displayed in my movie room the 5 different, because Vinegar did a thing where you could get 5 different slip covers for it, each one designed by a different artist that exemplified a different death in the film.
Wow, I don't think I have any slip covers from it.
I got all 5 slip covers, and I have them displayed in my movie room.
Awesome.
I think that movie is actually kind of like, it's not a perfect movie, but it is a damn good film in my opinion. Not Jill's, but it is in my opinion.
Oh, Jill doesn't like it as much? Oh. I interviewed her a while back, but I don't like... it's been so long since I've, done so many interviews since then. It's hard to remember.
She was at Tampa Bay Screams a few years back with me, but I didn't really get a chance to talk to her. So,
well, all right. So we are at that time exactly now. So we're gonna basically tell you guys about the stinkometer, which Paul normally explains everything, but when he's not around, I have to do it. And I'm wondering, is this the first time you two have been on this show together, or was there one other one that you guys
I believe so, yes.
I think so.
I know,
at least for Indie Film Cafe.
I know I've been on with John Ward.
Yeah, both of you guys have been on with John, but
not Cameron.
Okay. All right. Well, Cameron and Dustin both know about this, but the audience that might be checking this out for the first time may be unfamiliar. We have a stinkometer system. Basically, it's a 1 to 10 rating system where 1 is really, really good and 10 is a big pile of stink. And anything in the middle, like could be like 0.5, like 5.5, 6.5, whatever. If you can't decide necessarily between one or the other, you can pick one of those. Then at the end of the season, we'll tally them all up and see which ones have been the stinkiest. And trust me, this season just started, because, we just started doing it in September and this is October. It's new, and we haven't had a terrible start. It hasn't been that stinky. Season 5 was way stinkier than season 6 so far. So we'll see. I'm sure Paul can up that. I've been very good at trying to find movies that I really enjoy and really want to share, and pick people who really want to share their movies. So that being said, who wants to go first? Give their rating. Are you saying Cameron? Cameron?
Yeah, Cameron should
make me go.
Yeah, Cameron should go first.
All right, so one's the best, 10's the worst. I got to say this one is middle of the road. I have to give it close to middle of the road. I'm going to give it a 4.
You're going to give it a 4?
I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's pretty good. It's just a crazy film. You have to know what you're in for. It's a crazy film. It's a fun film. It's not a great film, but it is a really good. And so I got to give it a 4. So sort of mildly stinky.
Yeah, that's fair. What about you, Dustin?
So, remind me of the stinkometer again.
Okay, so I think you're frozen real quick. So, okay, there you are.
There we are.
So, basically, the stinkometer is 1 to 10. 1 being really good, and 10 being stinky bad, kind of thing.
Okay. So for me, I would give it like a 2.5. I really love this movie. I really do. I think it's hilariously fun. It's really stupid. The acting is hilarious. I love the little girl and her ugly ass doll. I love the music. Like I said, it feels like a really weird, creepy fucking dream that it sticks with you. So,
well, I'm sorry, guys. I've got to be that person. You normally Paul's this person.
Do it. Go ahead and move the score down.
So yeah, or up, or whatever you want to call it. I'd have to say 8. And I know that's gonna seem really weird considering you guys really seem to like it. I think it's a great movie. I'm not gonna lie. This is a really fun movie. I really enjoy this. I'll watch this again, probably with other people this time. For a first time watch, maybe later when I see it a few more times, my score may change, but right now I'm gonna have to go with 8 because it is there are some really bad acting in this movie, and there's some really terrible dialogue, when the two main couple is just arguing, but it just feels so fake and weird. They're arguing at one point. She's like, "I'm gonna go in the other room."
Doesn't sound like natural Bostonians to you.
No, and this is not anything natural. Period.
Going out to the car in the yard.
Yeah, you don't think that that's exactly how Mark Wahlberg and his wife sound like when they're arguing?
I bet money on that. I got $5 in my pocket right now. $5 that Pepe stole. I took that shit. That $5
you stole it with your skeleton hand.
My skeleton hand. With my strong hand.
You should believe in ghosts.
You should believe in ghosts. Which makes no sense because then he goes into the house. And she should have said there's ghosts in there. And he'd be like, "Oh, hey, I believe in ghosts. I'm going in." Whatever. Anyway, I honestly, it was a cute little movie. I liked it. I really had a good time, but you gotta admit, guys, it's got some pretty big stink in it. It's got some pretty bad stuff. But the thing is, here's the thing. Dustin, you love stinky movies.
I do.
Yeah. So to
I
you,
do.
a stinky movie isn't a stinky movie. It's a good movie to you.
Yeah, I love it.
See, I rate a stinky movie by how much fun I have watching it. If I'm bored, if I'm not having a good time, that's what I consider stinky. That's why, like some points in this were just, it was off. That's why I kind of gave it a mild, 4. It's not exactly the stinkiest, but it's not the best. But I still had a lot of fun watching it, and I'm probably gonna have to get this on Blu-ray at some point because I feel like I've slept on it for 25 years.
Actually, if I see it out and about or on eBay or something for a good amount, I'll probably get it too.
Yeah, you got to get it with its. I forget which one it's paired with. Scream Factory had done it on Blu-ray with one of its sequels.
What, like Evil Dead 4?
I believe it was either Witchery or Beyond Darkness was on the disc with it.
Let's find out.
La Casa 5?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Ghosthouse Witchery Blu-ray.
There you go. So you get
only $15.
Part 3 and 4, and Witchery is a fascinating little view too with Linda Blair and the Hoff.
Hey, don't hassle the Hoff now.
Yeah.
Linda Blair and David Hasselhoff. That sounds
and a nice little witch movie with a big dose of The Exorcist ripoff.
Wait, does it have special features at all or no?
No, I believe they're film and trailer only, but they look incredible though.
Okay.
So,
it's always a bummer when they don't have the special features. Like, could you imagine the director giving commentary?
Yeah. I feel like Scream Factory had done Beyond Darkness, aka La Casa 5 as well, but I feel like that one did actually get re-released from Severin a while back, Beyond Darkness, and it actually did end up having some features on it, I believe. Beyond Darkness is also notable too because it stars the son in it is Michael Stevenson from Troll 2.
Nice.
So,
before he went off to be a big time fucking documentary guy with Best First Movie.
Exactly.
I love that documentary, by the way. It's just one of the best. We're hopefully going to be doing a documentary, and by the time this comes out, it might already be out or something. But we're doing a documentary review show, which is interesting because I don't think there's ever really been that, but like Paul wants to review documentaries and talk about, why we like them and stuff and what's enjoyable about them. But I really, if that's the case, I really want to try to get Best Worst Movie in there because it's, one of my favorites,
Yeah.
It still is. Well, thank you guys. This has been awesome. And
yeah, it's been fun, man.
Dustin, for your first time doing this, what did you think?
Yeah, pretty fun. I enjoyed it.
Last month we had Jackie Hall doing Shark Exorcist, so thank God you guys weren't part of that.
Yeah, praise Jesus I wasn't part of that because that'd have been like a 12-minute
movie or 12
minutes? Like a 12 on the stinkometer.
It was funny. It was one of the it's one of the ones that got a 10 plus, and Paul got really disappointed because he wasn't there, right? And I think he would have tried to argue that it's not a 10 plus, but I'm like, Paul, you don't even want to watch it again.
It's a god awful movie.
If you don't want to watch a movie again, then how is it like not a 10 plus?
God awful. I would be lucky to never have to watch it again in my entire fucking life.
The only other movie.
Did I forget to tell you, Dustin? That's what we're covering next for next Appreciation Month. Shark Exorcist. I'm gonna have 8.
I'm gonna be out.
Same movie.
He's out sick already.
Whole week. That whole month. I'll be sidestepping the Donald Farmer Appreciation Month. So.
Oh God. I thought it would be a Shark Appreciation Month, but I guess
Donald
Farmer Appreciation.
Oh no, I don't know what the next
or Exorcist Appreciation Month. It could be almost anything with Shark Exorcist. Sharks, Exorcist, Donald Farmer.
Amityville spinoffs. I mean, you could do that.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Well, on to something then.
I want to be on there for the Amityville vibrator one.
Oh, dude, that's the best Amityville spinoff. Nathan Rumber made a classic.
That is hands down one of the absolute best Amityville knockoffs, if not the best. So,
Or hands up
It is the
when you're holding a vibrator.
hands.
Oh Lord, I you know what? Thank God people are making movies. Period. You know, like we're getting this
Making
surplus of films and content, and most of it goes to Tubi. So this movie is available on Tubi as of now. You know, which is in October of 2022. So February 2023. I don't know. You can't predict the future because Tubi movies come and go, you know, weirdly enough. You just never know with the rights or whatever. But I'm pretty sure, you know, this should have been called House of the Cemetery too. You know, House by the Cemetery too. But
It would have made more sense.
I mean, just
Maybe,
the title.
maybe not made more sense, but
Or Ghost House by the Cemetery. Until Dustin makes that movie.
Just because of the circumstances regarding this movie and its inevitable future, I should make that movie. So,
I tell you what, sir, if you direct it, I'll write it.
there you go. See, it's a years
Bam! Indie Film Cafe producing, you know, movies,
go.
content.
Years are in motion.
Yes, trust me, we've got so many ideas we just throw out there, and then they end up ideas that for potential movies that probably will never happen. Sadly,
You know what? I'm ready to make movies. I'm not into bullshitting around and like talking about stuff when it comes to that kind of stuff. I've said before, I'm like my filmmaking mentality is like just say fuck it and do it. I'm like, let's go. Like, let's make it. Like, I don't care.
there you go. You can make Ghost
House by the Cemetery.
Ghost House by the Cemetery. Just find a house by a cemetery, or even you don't even need like them to be in the same location.
I could make it legally distinct and call it like Spook House by the Graveyard.
There you go. There you go. I like that. That's a good
I like it, but all right. I'm down. I'll watch anything.
I direct Spook House by the Graveyard. Cameron, you direct Ghost House by the Cemetery.
All right. There you go.
So there's like, is there a trilogy? Are you gonna get
this is
somebody
La
else
Casa
to come
Part
in
5
on?
and Part 6 and Part 7. La Casa.
Yeah.
Is there a part? There's not a part 6 and part 7 in La Casa, right?
No. We're gonna make them.
Now we're starting to sound like someone remaining unnamed.
Okay. All right, let's stop this. All right.
Moody,
Anyway.
Moody, go ahead and just make Zombie 9.
Zombie 9. Oh Lord.
Oh,
Okay.
no, or don't. Please don't.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been awesome.
It's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys will be back this season for more stuff. We got plenty of movies for the rest of the season coming. So, but everybody else, join us next week. I think is another Paul movie. So I can't say what it is, but I don't know what it is yet. But I know who the director is, but I can't say anything yet. We don't like to give out any information until it happens. Not because of two reasons. One reason is because things might change, and then right? Like, well, if we haven't recorded it, how do we know, right? And two, to keep everybody in suspense because it's going to be another week, So. We like to let people know. We don't like to let them know ahead of time. But there you go. All right. Yep. Well, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope everybody out there enjoyed this as well. Join us next week. Until then, bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.